For accounts receivable, generally I pull the accounts receivable aging and I recalculate the totals, both per customer and per column. Then I tie the amount to the trial balance. Once I'm satisfied with any issues that I have found, I make selections for confirmation. During that process, if the confirmations are complex or need information in order to be prepared, I will generally inspect documentation that would be used as an alternate procedure. Once I'm satisfied with any issues I have found, I make selections for confirmation. During that process, if the confirmations are complex or need information in order to be prepared, I will generally inspect documentation around that contract as an alternate procedure. This would be review of the contract, review of invoices, receipts, all of that related to a service. I also will ask immediately for subsequent payment on those selections. Sometimes accounts receivable confirmations are not effective due to the lack of response or understanding of the confirmation. After getting confirmation process done, I will review the 90-day column for significant balances and go over all of them with the client in order to determine their collectability. The first question is related to receipts. If they can show me receipts on items that have been over 90 days, I will note it as collectible. If not, then we have to have a review process for how they collect old balances. If there is not a process and no payment, you really have to get the client to agree that it needs to be in the allowance. After you finish, add up all of the balances that should be in the allowance and compare to the allowance that exists. If close and no changes are made, and if it's significantly different, an AJE may be in order. If not, then we have to review processes that they have for collecting old balances in AR. If there is not a process and no payment, you really have to get the client to agree that it needs to be in the allowance. After you finish, add up all the balances that it should be in the allowance and compare it to the allowance that exists. If close, then no changes are necessary. If it's different, an AJE may be in order. This inquiry, subsequent payment inspection, and comparison to the allowance should all be done at the client at the same time. Ratio comparison can identify variances and problems with accounts receivable. They can also identify when things are normal. Analytics are tricky because you have to develop an expectation to compare the result and to find any variances. If you find variances, you then have to explain them.